This review is brought to you in part by Dean's Hobby Stop in Owasso, Michigan. Dean's has one of the Midwest's largest selections of used kits at great prices. They also feature new kits and supplies as well. Call Dean's to get their mail order list featuring hundreds of vintage kits, or check their website for great deals on both new and classic models.
Thanks for joining us at Right On Replicas, where we're proud to bring you the best scale model kit reviews on the planet. This review is brought to you in part by Rogers Hobby Center in Saginaw, Michigan, where the fun begins.
This review covers the 1923 Ford Model T Coca-Cola delivery van. It's a 1/25 scale kit from AMT number 1024. Now, before 1925, when Ford released the first factory-ready pickup, they were already producing a truck chassis that spawned an aftermarket for all manner of body styles, like this 1923 delivery van. The 23 Model T truck sold for about $375. Now, starting in '60, AMT has released at least 30 versions of the 23T, and this reboxing came with new decals and a cardboard vignette for display. The kit's molded in red with clear and vinyl parts, 78 pieces in all, with a really nice decal sheet. And when it's finished, it'll be about 6 inches long by 3 inches wide by 3 inches high. The parts for the kit, most of the contents, as you can see, it's got a nice tree of vinyl tires that you'll need to cut the centers out of. But this is my version of the open box review, only mine will take you about 5 seconds. Now, the decal sheet is really spectacular. The register is excellent, and the colors are really nice in the Coca-Cola livery. It comes out looking really well on the model itself. But we'll use some setting solution for those, and probably mostly liquid cement for the construction, occasionally some super glue and white glue for the windows. Assembly starts with the motor, so go ahead and get these pieces out of the kit and remove them from the tree and clean up any edges or sprue attachment points, and then assemble the parts according to the instructions. They're all fairly basic though. Your block halves, cylinder head, etc. The front fan. There's a starter and a port for oil there, and put those together as you see here. Now, the starter's position is kind of vague. You can see it there. It's on the right half of the engine, and it's facing towards the back, on that little portion that contains the flywheel. So that's where that goes. So again, you can see that starter there in the lower right hand. There's a toothpick in the back of the transmission there. Now, the engine was painted with a semi-gloss black, and sometimes a dark green is used, but I used black for mine with some rust for the exhaust. Then I dry brushed some silver on to highlight those parts. Next, we'll work on the wheels and the tire assemblies, and so go ahead and remove the wheels from the sprues and clean those up, and paint those a flat black, or with a primer, I should say. Now, let the primer dry and then paint them Coke red, and I used Tamiya's X7. After the spokes, the wheels were dry, paint the valve stems black, and the hubcaps and the wheel nuts are a silver color. Now slip the tires over the rims and set those aside until later. Parts out to start on the frame, the left and right rails and the cross members. There's also a little hand brake brace there that will need to be removed from the sprue and cleaned up. And then the frame, you'll need to keep square, so you'll have to build down on something flat so that the body will fit and the tires will all touch the ground at the same time. And you'll have to test fit the floor there to find placement for the hand brake brace, but we'll take a look at that. After the frame has dried, we're going to scrape some of the paint away from the mounts there, find the locating points for the motor, and glue the motor into place at this time. So gather the rear suspension and exhaust parts and glue the exhaust pipe to the manifold, and then glue the muffler to the frame and the pipe. Next, glue the rear spring to the rear axle and wait for the glue to set up and dry. Now look for the parts for the front end and the suspension pieces there and clean those up, and glue the tie rod assembly to the front axle and glue the radius rods to the front axle too. Now we're going to take the sub-assemblies for the front and rear suspensions, and they locate fairly simply there. There's some good mounting locations for those. So go ahead and glue those into position, but make sure that everything is level and square so that the wheels will work out well when they're done, and this will put them in their position on the axles. So go ahead and watch the symmetry on that and look it over before the glue sets. Now that the glue is set on the frame and suspension pieces, we're going to paint that with the flat black and then let that set. And we're also going to paint the exhaust pieces with some rust paint for emphasis. Now we'll look for the pieces for the front cowl area, and so grab the cowl, ignition box, and the coil box, the instrument panel, and we're going to remove the flash and any sprue attachment points there, and glue the ignition box to the left side of the cowl, the instrument panel on the right, and the coil goes in the center. Now the clear parts, they'll be glued on just before final assembly. So we can do a little detail painting here. The inside of the cowl is wood, like a plywood. I painted that with a deck tan, and the components with some flat brown. Those are just wooden boxes, and detail the highlights there with chrome pen. At this point, things will start coming together. So gather the floor, the cowl assembly, handbrake, and the foot pedals. Also the side panel seats, the bases for those, and the steering columns pieces and fenders and running boards. And I painted the wood parts with the deck tan color, and the floor and the seat support are kind of a rubbery black. The seats are brown leather. Now the first coat of X7 Tamiya paint there, red, goes on the rest, and we'll get that started for assembly. Now that we've got some bases going here for the pieces to assemble, make sure that you scrape any paint off where you're going to glue edges or tabs together, and glue the handbrake, the foot pedals, fenders, and the running boards to the floor, and make sure everything is flush and square and the seams are tight. Remove the paint from the gluing surfaces here on the cowl, and glue the cowl assembly into position there, and make sure that it's vertical. Assemble the seat parts there, the riser base and the seat cushion and together, and put those into place with each other. Now glue the sides, the edges of the bottom of the sides to the floorboards there, the floor, and that will sandwich the seat into position. So place those all into position at the same time, and then let that set and dry. But use some slow setting glue. We're going to add some more parts. Now, as you see, we're going to add some more of the assembly pieces. And so the headlights, hood, crank, the rear doors, the roof, the license plates with its light, and the radiator cap and the radiator tank need to be removed from the sprue trees and cleaned up. And then once you get that ready, we'll add those. So here we go. First, we're going to assemble the radiator tank and cap, and paint the inside of the radiator black. The tank is a copper or brass, and then the cap can be a chrome. Now glue the radiator assembly to the frame in between the fenders, using the hood to get it into the proper place there. Now glue the rear doors between the side panels, and then glue the headlight housings to the fenders next to the radiator. Now we'll paint the top of the roof a rubber black color, and the steering column and the crank are gloss black for the mast. Of course, as you saw, the actual steering wheel portion is wood. Now glue the body to the frame, and slide the steering column through the floor and attach it to the steering linkage below, and glue it into place. Now attach the license plates to the left floor rail. Your clear parts don't look too bad, but I always dip them in some of the Pledge floor coating. It really makes them look crisper and cleaner. So I did that, wicked off the excess and let that dry. And then we're going to glue the windows into the body with some white glue after painting the inside of the headlight buckets with some chrome. And then glue the glass into the headlights too. And once the clear parts are dry, you can mask those off. Now we're going to just gently place the hood into position, no glue, and then cover up the interior and frame components with some low-tech masking tape. And we're going to paint the exterior again with a couple of good coats of the Tamiya X7, then let it dry and give it a coat of Pledge floor polish for shine. You see here the model assembled and painted, etc. But before we put the roof on and the decals, we're going to place the hood into position, cover the interior and frame components with some low-tack masking tape, and then we're going to paint the exterior again with the X7 Tamiya red and let it dry and give it a coat of Pledge for so that the decals will stick. Next, we're going to apply those decals, use plenty of warm water to move it into position. I didn't really think that the setting solution was needed for these. They went on nicely, and it's flat surfaces, so just make sure you get into position and then use a soft cloth or tissue to get any trapped water or bubbles out of the decals. Now let those dry overnight, and you may want to give the overall another coat of the Pledge for a good overall sheen. Next, attach the wheels, the axles, and the tires into place along with the roof and the crank, and then paint the running boards and the radiator center flat black and highlight the Ford emblem on the radiator with some chrome. Next, remove the masks, and there you have it. Your model is finished. Next, grab the cardboard pieces for the display and glue or tape them together as shown on the back of the pieces, and it looks kind of nice with the truck on it. So I like that as a little add-on to the kit. You can display it with the truck in position, and it looks pretty good on the shelf. The kit went together pretty well, but I wouldn't call it one for beginners simply because of the need to keep everything square and symmetrical without real good locating pins. All the parts, otherwise, they go together well, and I enjoyed building it. I think it looks great with the display, and the windshield glue points, though, they're not hidden, so you can see the edge of the glass. But if I were you, I'd buy one and put it on my shelf. You'll have a few pieces left over that were apparently just put into the kit, and they were meant for different versions. But that's all that's left. We hope you like this step-by-step premium scale model kit review. And so that you don't miss any more, please subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking on the icon in the lower right hand of every review. You can find us on Facebook or our website, rideonreplicas.com too. Thanks.